I create ease in my home, abundance in my life, and joy in my role. I invest in what serves me, embrace the luxury of simplicity, and build a life that feels as good as it looks. In this space, we honor ease, elevate our standards, and redefine what it means to be a modern woman at home.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome into the Solstice Stoic. I've already pulled our affirmation cards, prayed over them. I hope that you resonate with them. My voice is a little bit labored right now, and I'll be drinking a hot beverage, and I might clear my throat a couple of times. But let's go ahead and see which cards we're gonna start with first. We're gonna go through all of these cards. If you're on Facebook, we're gonna go through the first card, and if you want to watch the rest of the video, you can just subscribe to MissParkerToYou.com, get the premium, and then go to Solstice Stoic, and you'll be able to watch the full video there. Or if you are a resident member of your third home, you could watch the whole thing there, plus a myriad of other benefits. So grab this one twice. Healing. This is in the category of healing. It says, I will open my heart to love after loss. Now, this loss doesn't necessarily mean a loss as far as a death, but it definitely does not take it off the table. But I've noticed, even in my own life, that it's hard to open up to people. So the love cannot necessarily always mean like a romantic love or a love of a family member or a family friend or whatever. It could just mean things that have gone wrong in your life, and you end up putting up walls, whether that's with people, places, or things. So when you open up your heart, what you're doing is, one, you probably already started the healing process. You probably already started doing the work so that you can move forward, so you can function in the normal state that you normally do. And your loss doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, a person. It could be a financial loss, to where you invested in something and you decided to scale back and not eat. Some people will shut everything down. They won't even try again, which is a whole nother conversation, which you should definitely not do that. But you should proceed with caution and more strategy behind it. And within those strategies, you should have tactics, okay? But what I want you to do is to open up your heart to things, open your heart back open to things that you have shut yourself down from. Let's start with people. People are just that. They're not God. They're not divine. They're divine beings in a different sense, but they're not God. So don't expect a godlike response to anything you do, whether that's positive or negative, okay? There are times where you will react or do something positive, and people will react to you negatively, okay? And vice versa, okay? Don't shut people down. Don't shut people out. You actually need people, okay, in your life to go forward in your ventures, if you're in business, to help you on day-to-days, to give you advice, to help you like become who you are. You're going to need people, because without people there will be no experiences. And even if you've had a bad experience with somebody, don't shut your heart down. Proceed with caution. We could talk about with people when it comes to a death that it impacted you very heavily. I say with that, not I don't know what your faith is, but in my faith, when somebody passes away, we yes, we do mourn, but we don't mourn for long, because we know if we know that person, we don't truly know people. We can know them for decades and still don't know their true character. God knows their heart. So if their heart was pure and with the Lord, in the acceptance of Jesus Christ, in my faith, we believe they went to heaven. So they're no longer suffering. So what we put in the ground is just a shell of the bigger picture, right? So when somebody that you love and admire passes, don't pass with them, okay? Let the dead be with the dead. Do not sit there and wallow in mourning, because it will eat you up alive, and you will not be able to show up in a positive, strong, positive light for the people that are still here with you, because you are still a blessing to people, regardless if you feel like you're not. More people feel that nobody would care if they were to die, but they would be very surprised how big of an impact it would be if you were to lose your life, whether that's natural causes or not. It's very, very, very impactful for positive and negative, okay? Now let's talk about the loss of people when it comes to romance. If you lose your spouse in a divorce, if or you lose your spouse to another person, which are two different types of pain. A divorce, in my opinion, is very painful, and it's a loss because it's literally like tearing your skin off your flesh. It's very painful, regardless of what people may say, what they may portray in the public eye. That is like a death. Divorce is like a death. It's when you have two people that have joined everything about themselves into one. They've shared their bodies, they shared their finances, they've shared children, and then you take that away and you rip that apart. It is a very painful experience. To be cheated on, meaning you suffered a loss from your spouse because they stepped out on you, is just as gut-wrenching as the divorce, if not worse. Usually the cheating and then the divorce happens. The whole process through and through is extremely painful. It's an emotional toil. It hurts not only you, but your children, your friends, the family, people around you, because it's different. It's not the same. That's a whole nother subject, but it's not the same. So when you lose in business, let's talk about when you lose in business. Let me go back. When you suffer a love loss, such as a divorce, or your spouse cheated on you, stepped out on you, don't close down. That is a really crucial time to open up communication with your spouse. That is a time to start opening up communication more with God. This is a time where you need to sit down and start self-evaluating. This is the time where you need to start reflecting on your environment, the people in it, everything, depending on the circumstances and how everything played out. You have to start. This is not a time to close your heart. This is a time to open your heart and start loving harder, even if it does end up in divorce, being that if it's your choice or your spouse's choice. Still open up your heart with love, because understand that even though your spouse wants a divorce, they're suffering too. And you may not feel like they're suffering, but it's a different type of suffering, okay? A completely different type. When a spouse cheats, the cheating spouse is suffering internally, and they're just not going to open up about it, which makes it even more like detrimental, okay? And then also you're suffering, the kids are suffering. So as the person who I would consider the victim in the situation, or you would feel like you're the victim in the situation, don't close down, open up, give more love. And I know it sounds ridiculous, like why would I give more love to this person? I say give more love regardless if you choose to divorce or not, because that is the start of your healing. That is the start of your healing. Your children are seeing how you're handling it. Your family and his side of the family is seeing how you handle it. Your co-workers, everybody is seeing how you handle it. Are you suffering? Are you in pain? Yes. But if you close your heart down, that pain will be magnified, okay? Now let's talk about the loss of business. Like you're in business and you suffer a huge financial loss. That could be in the form of money, actual money. It could be in the form of a connection that could have got you to big money. I say don't give up. Don't shut down. Don't turn away. What you need to do is go back to the drawing board, figure out where the mistakes happen, where you overlooked, come up with a better plan with your team. If you don't have a team, I feel you, girl. I feel you. I use ChatGPT and I strategize. We work out strategies together. And then within those strategies we come up with, we have implemented tactics. But if you have the blessing of actual people around you to help you with that, that is your time to dive deeper. Dive deep. That's what happens when in growth. You may mess up, but you have the opportunity to go back, dive deeper into what you're trying to do, figure it out, narrow it down, trim the fat off, and really just hone in on what the goal is. And then from there, you should be able to come up with the strategy and the tactics and things like that. But don't shut down, because then you'll never know where things could go. You may re-strategize and boom, your revenue skyrockets because what you guys came up with as a team actually was beneficial and it worked. You shut down, and just because somebody turned you away or somebody got in the way of a deal, a deal that could have helped you, if you shut down, you may not meet the next person. I could tell you that from my own personal experience, I stopped networking in my own community and in my for my business because I felt defeated. I felt like nobody cared. I felt like I was being overlooked. I felt there was a myriad of feelings that I was going through that made it to where I didn't feel comfortable anymore doing anything and showing up and showing my face because of embarrassment, feeling like, oh, well, I'm sorry, there's people outside doing the lawn. Showing up, and I felt embarrassed that people would see my face, and the minute they saw me, they would say failure. They would look at me and feel like she failed in her business, when in reality I didn't fail. I'm actually very prosperous but I had closed down. Say I would have stayed open and kept my heart open to receive, whether that was feedback, help, or whatever, or advice, I would have probably been further along in my business. So that's my personal experience in coming back out and reopening up myself to people. It is a challenge, but it's also the beginning of a healing process within myself that I had to go through. So don't shut down. Just know you need to open your heart to love after a loss, regardless of what that loss was. Okay, so the journal prompt: we all experience loss, and it can be challenging to keep our hearts open to possibility when our instinct is to shut down and protect ourselves from further hurt. In your journal or on a piece of paper, make a list of 3 things you've lost. It could be a friendship, a relationship, a job. What has each experience taught you? What have you learned about loving yourself through those hardships? Because that's another thing. You have to love yourself. You have to do the work to love yourself to get through these things. How can you keep your heart open to love and joy even after the loss? That's what I want you to write down. This was in the category of healing. I will open my heart to love after loss. All right, that is the end of this portion of the video. If you would like to see the rest of the video, which we will be going through the category of self-trust, boundaries, self-love, personal power, and letting go. you can go ahead, as I stated at the beginning, subscribe to Miss Parker to You as a premium membership with the premium membership, or join your third home as a resident, and you will be able to enjoy the next part of this video. Letting go. Letting go. I didn't even really have to do much right there, like, because when letting go is so hard. It is so hard. I don't care what kind of letting go it is. Letting go is hard. So it takes practice to access that power, to cultivate it each and every day. This is a practice. Once it becomes a practice, it becomes your lifestyle. First, once you discover and realize that there's terrible cycles happening in your life and it's reflecting in your outer world, in your children and stuff, then you have to change. You got to set up what I would consider like rituals, where rituals are like intentional things that you do every day to make sure that you stay on track. Once you have your rituals down, those rituals become a habit, meaning you do it without thought. It just happens. Like, we wake up, we brush our teeth. We don't think about going to brush our teeth. We just go brush our teeth, okay? We don't think about taking a breath of fresh air. We just breathe in. Rituals to habits, then it becomes your lifestyle. That's when it becomes your lifestyle. That means it's just part of who you are at that point. So it takes practice to access that power. So every day you need to practice intentional power retrieval. Okay. Today, stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eyes and say, I trust in my power to break cycles. I remember my power by blank. Fill that with whatever it takes to remember what power you hold within yourself, okay? God gives us a power. He gives us the power to choose. He gives us the power to take what is ours, in a sense. He makes it, it's really a defense tool. It's really a survival tool, okay? So that was personal power. I trust in my power. I trust in my power to break cycles. Let's see. We got 3 more categories. Let's see what we're choosing. All right. Self-trust. Self-trust. I trust the timing of my life. Oh my God. This will probably resonate with a lot of people who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Not so much in your 60s plus, because you've probably already come to a realization already. But for us, it's really when we get out of college and we start living the day-to-day as a functioning adult, where I feel like we start to think about how much we can't do, how much we could have been doing if we would have done this, if this would have happened, and all these different if scenarios. Instead of trusting everything that you've gone through, understanding that it happened in a divine timing. It may have not been a positive experience every single time, but it was a reason why you went through that, whether that was by choice. Because understand, just because you're going through something doesn't necessarily mean God ordained it, or it was divine. It was a divine meeting already. Sometimes you have a choice. Remember that. Remember everything we just talked about. You have a choice. Your choices, but also there is divine timing, where there are things that you're going to go through that are testing what type of person you are when things hit the fan, what type of person you are when things are going good, how you are spiritually, how you treat people, and things like that. So I say trust the timing in your life. Understand that timing does matter when it comes to business. It does matter when it comes to getting married. It does matter when it comes to having children, because some people don't believe that it's all in God's will. Okay, I get that, but God also wants us to be good stewards of our lives. So he wants us to plan 4 things. Plan to bring children in. Plan to be married. Plan to take the next step in your business. Plan to take the next step in your career. Not just going with the flow, okay? Trust the timing in your life. You need to trust the timing. Understand that when you make decisions, trust yourself that you're making the right decision. Don't let people come in. Like, you can hear counsel and stuff, but also consider the source. But still, at the end of the day, whatever decisions you make, trust it. Trust that decision that you're making, and trust that you're making the right decision and is going to lead you in the right direction. So in your journal or on a piece of paper, create a timeline of your life. Add whatever events and experience feel significant: relationships, births, deaths, educational experience, travel, professional accomplishments. Once you finish, spend some time observing the things you've gone through and appreciating what each experience, good or bad, has offered. That's something that people don't like to do. They don't ever look at the bad in experiences. No, they only look at the bad, but they don't look at the good. For every bad, there is a good, okay? It's the law, it's universal law. So even if you're going through a bad experience, find the silver lining. Figure out, okay, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. Where can I gain a positive out of this experience? What did I learn out of this experience? You've gained something out of any experience that you've gone through. Last 2. Oh, that was self-trust. I trust the timing of my life. Self-love. I learned to celebrate myself by reflecting on how far I've come. This is for the people in the age group I mentioned in the previous one. Reflect on how far you come. Stop thinking about how behind you are. You're not behind, okay? You're not behind. There's just been things in your life that maybe have detoured you away from your path, that made things seem like you'll never get there or it's taking longer. But reflect on where you've come from. Like, look at what you did just a year ago, a decade ago, and look at where you are now. Okay? And you need to celebrate it, because even though you may not be where you feel you should be, whether that's in your marriage, your relationships, friends, family, your financial situation, career, or business, understand that it ain't the beginning. You're in the thick of it, okay? Look at how far you come, especially if you're in a positive situation. So, like, you could celebrate how far you come, even in a negative, because you could be like, oh my God, this marriage is so difficult, so hard, but I made it here. We're still in love. We're still trucking through. We just had to work out the kinks. We just had to work on how we're going to parent. We're just going to have to work on how we're going to run our household. We just got to work on our communication. It may be hard. It may feel strenuous, but look at where you were when you first got married. You probably didn't even know each other that well. You probably didn't even really talk about the things I just listed. And it was making things, y'all was fighting all the time. But now that you guys gain awareness and you're aware of each other's issues and situations and all this type of stuff and emotions, now you have something to work on. So that's a positive. Your business. So I release guilt and shame. Oh my God. I release guilt and shame. A lot of us walk around with a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And it can stem from things that happen in our childhood, from sexual assault, from being told we're not worth anything. Our parents might not even have done anything to us. It literally could have just been peers at school that literally made us feel guilt and shame. It could be that you messed up on something, on a project. You messed up somewhere along life, and you just carry guilt and shame and embarrassment. I tell people, in my own life, I've had a lot of guilt and shame. There's a lot of things that I have done in my life that I am not proud of, that for me to share would be crazy. I've done a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things. I've done more than people have actually thought and would ever imagine. Okay. I have lived a life where you would think I was a different person. Okay. It's like living two different lives at one point. And what I've done in my past does not define who I am today, but it did make me the woman I am today. And because I've learned and moved on and healed from that, some of the things that I had to deal with, and I like that made me feel guilty, were like, let me go ahead and be frank. Some of the things that made me feel guilty in my adolescence is sometimes I wasn't the nicest kid to my parents, because I was not raised by my actual biological parents. I was raised by my grandparents. God rest my grandmother's soul. My grandfather's still here. Our relationship is great today. But growing up, there was a void because I did not know who my parents were really. I had an idea. And when you find out that your parents are not what you thought, and it becomes very disappointing, and you end up lashing out at the people that you felt it was their fault for why they ended up that way. So the guilt of that actually carried from all through my 15 all the way up until I was probably 25, 26, where I could not bear to be around my grandparents a lot. Not because I did not love them, not because the relationship was sour, it's because I know how I was as a person and how I thought and how I treated them in ways that they did not deserve. So I've dealt with that. I've talked about it with them, and I've healed from that. So we're in a totally different place. And I also felt shame in things that I've done when I was a very young girl, like a young woman. Left home, got out here, joined Lord God, found people that really didn't have my best interest at all, and done some what I would consider diabolical things. And it brought, excuse me, it brought shame on me for many, many, many years. I could not shake it. One day I will tell you those stories in ways to give you motivation, encouragement, and understand that life doesn't end just because you've made mistakes. Okay? So I really want you to release that guilt and shame. And the ways you could do that is self-evaluating. Look at the things you did that were shameful or brought guilt onto you, and figure and find the silver lining. Because even though I was what I would consider mean and disrespectful to my parents because of something that I thought they did, something that I blamed them for, the silver lining in that was they took care of me when nobody would take care of me. They put me through school. I grew up in a very privileged environment. When I say privileged, I mean hella privileged, okay? Things that when I left home were considered fairy tales to a lot of other young women, especially young women of color, fairy tales, okay? So I looked at that going back when I was going through my healing process and I was deciding to forgive, because that's another thing you have to do to release guilt and shame. You got to forgive yourself for once. Forgive yourself. That's the first thing. Once you forgive yourself, and if you feel like your guilt and shame was caused by an outside source or person, forgive that too. Because forgiveness is not for them, it's for yourself, okay? Forgive yourself. Yeah. Now let's look at the back. To write our stories, we need to practice letting go of limiting beliefs that hold us back. Oh my God. Our mind is crazy. Our mind plays tricks on us. Our subconscious, in my opinion, plays tricks on us. But your mind doesn't know anything is not reality or reality unless you tell what it is. So if you want to live an abundant life, you have to reprogram your mind to believe you're already living that abundant life, and your brain will do whatever it's got to do, and it will literally say, we're living an abundant life. We're living an abundant life. And your actions, your daily actions, will start to reflect that mindset, okay? Now you have to reel it in sometimes, because sometimes people think abundant life means spending money, when abundant life could not have anything to do with actual money. That's just a piece of it. Okay, today I want you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Consider what makes you feel shame or guilt. So take a breath, close your eyes, take a deep breath, do some thinking, and consider what makes you feel shameful or guilty. Sit with that discomfort without judgment. We're going to sit and we're going to think and we're going to feel and consume and understand what that is, what that guilt and shame is. Okay? We're going to confront it head on, because some of us are running from it. We're masking it with money. We're masking it with a bunch of friends. We're masking it with hair, makeup, whatever it is. We're masking it with men. We're going to confront it, because if you don't confront it, your relationship will be sour. You might spend more money than necessary. Like it's a spiral, a downward spiral if you're not confronting, okay? Now imagine those feelings gently floating away. Just imagine what it felt like if none of the things that have ever happened to you that made you feel guilty and shame ever happened. How would you feel? Just imagine how you feel. Imagine what you want to feel. Imagine that. Give guilt and shame the permission to leave so that you can grow deeper into yourself and create a new narrative. You can rewrite your story. Anybody can rewrite their story, okay? It's about choice at the end of the day. God gave us free will to make choices in our life, whether that's for the good or for the bad. So, learn to release guilt and shame for yourself and for your own self, mental health, physical health, emotional health, not for other people. Okay. This is good. This is really good. Let's see. I picked those two. Let's see what else pops up. Ooh. Okay. Personal power. I trust in my power to break cycles. I trust in my power to break cycles. Yeah, you got to break cycles. You need to break the cycles that your lineage has put into place. Those are what I called, what do you call those? Generational curses. People call it generational curses. You don't want to you want to break cycles in your family that were toxic, okay? Things that hurt you, or things that have put you in a state of sourness and bitterness and shame and guilt and closed off heart, all of that stuff, you want to break that cycle. And the only way you're going to break that cycle is making this choice. You have the choice. You can change your mind about anything in this world. You could change it. You can create this world to be whatever your heart desires. It does not matter what's happening around you. You create. your reality, okay? And if you want to break generational cycles in your family, it starts with you. That means whatever messed you up, you don't do it to your children. You pour more love, more caring, and all the positive vibes into your children. Did I say not discipline them? No. I said, but you can correct things through them by changing how you operate based off of the traumas that you went through in your life, okay? So you got to trust yourself to take that power back. You're taking your power back. When people try to make you feel less than, you give them power by believing it. You give them power, you're letting them take your power by believing it, by acting on it, meaning like somebody tells you you're not good enough for this position and you go, yeah, you're right. You internalize that. Then you want to quit your job, or you want to move departments, or you want to demote yourself. That means you gave over your power on a silver platter. Absolutely not. We're not doing that. We are going to take our power back, and we're not going to allow people's words and actions against us to make us feel that we are not worthy of that. That's a cycle you need to break. That is a spiritual cycle, in my opinion, issue. When people say things to folks, it breaks their spirit. That's a cycle that needs to stop, because somewhere down the line, before somewhere in your family, somebody was giving up. Someone was allowing people to steal their peace, their joy, their power to succeed in life, and it stops with you. And you have to trust yourself that every day that you wake up, that God gives breath to you every single day, that you're making the right decisions in the positive direction for you, not just your own future, but for your bloodline after you, your future as well. So breaking cycles is a huge thing. And I don't think people pay attention to the cycles in their life. They don't pay attention to how it's the little things in the day-to-day activities, the little rituals that you do. It's the little tiny habits that you create. It's the lifestyle that you live, where cycles that are actually negative are showing up, but you're not self-aware enough to actually notice them, but other people may notice them. You don't realize that things aren't going your way in your life because it's those little tiny day-to-day actions and little cycles that have been going on in your life since you were a child, that were influenced from people in your adolescence, okay? But you have to wake up. You're gonna have to wake up. That's why sitting down and doing self-evaluation, listening to stuff like this, like doing videos like this, not only helps me realize some things, but you listening in is helping you realize some things to think about, okay? You have the power to do things differently. True deep healing occurs when you decide that certain behaviors are no longer welcome in your life. Just because your parents did it, don't mean you have to do it. Just because your parents beat you to death to get you to do whatever they want, don't mean you have to do it to your children. Just because your mother gave up on her dreams doesn't mean you have to do that. Just because your father told you you weren't going to be nothing because he was nothing doesn't mean that's what your son is going to be like. Doesn't mean that's what you're going to be like. Your business is something that you can reflect on as well. Look at where you started. Look at where you are today. You literally started from zero, girl. You literally started from zero. So now that you are 2 years in, 5 years in, a decade in, there's growth right there. And I just want you to know that depending on circumstances, resources, access, that all matters in literally all these scenarios. They all matter. You cannot compare yourself to somebody else's journey. They may have something that you don't have access to, but you need to still celebrate how far you've come, okay? Take out a pen and a piece of paper, then set a timer for 60 seconds. This is what I want you to do. Make a list of all your big and small wins. Don't overthink this. Jot down everything that comes to mind. When your timer goes off, read them out loud. Beginning each item with "I am celebrating myself for blank." Return to this practice when you need to remember how much you have accomplished. This is something that I'm going to really be doing because I tend to compare myself in how far I am financially, spiritually, like health, fitness wise, as a mother, as a wife, to other women a lot. And I try not to do that. But this practice right here, this daily practice, weekly practice, quarterly practice, or whenever it comes to mind practice, is really going to help me stay focused on what's important and celebrate everything that I've accomplished and everything that I will accomplish. Last one is boundaries. Boundaries. I understand that some relationships are seasonal. This is going to be quick, you guys. It's super seasonal. Not every relationship that you come across is going to be forever. I mean, you've seen marriages literally come and go, boyfriends come and go, friends come and go.